When we get tied down to any kind of doctrine when it comes to diets, it starts to get a little culty, in my opinion. Hi folks, my name is Kat. I'm a licensed registered dietitian nutritionist, and on this channel I like to talk about weight inclusive and weight nutri focused approaches to health, as well as diving into scammy and, in my opinion, unethical nutrition related businesses, products, mostly nutrition related MLMs, and other fear mongering nutrition related claims. Now today's video, there's a lot of talk about diet culture and how it's similar to cult-like things, and in that same sense there are tons of people talking about MLM and its similarities with cult-like communities. But I really wanted to just create a dedicated video specifically talking about this instead of just what we normally do, sprinkle it here and there. So I'm not an expert specifically on cults, but on the nutrition side of things, this is what I do day in and day out. And when we talk about health, it's really important to remember that it is not just physical health that is important. Mental, social, emotional well-being, those all play a role in physical health and are just as important. And so if somebody finds that they're doing a program or a plan that is maybe beneficial in some way, maybe helping them on a physical level side of things, if it is harming other aspects of health, like their mental well-being, their social well-being, their emotional well-being, then it's not really healthy. It doesn't fit that definition. And so what I'm really grateful for with the content that I've been able to make for my channel has been helping people from a place where they have recognized that the nutrition plan, a program that they are maybe doing that was part of a nutrition related MLM program, is just no longer working for them. A really simplified, brief history on me is I became a registered dietitian almost a decade ago because I wanted to have the perfect diet. I grew up as an athlete. I recognized how much nutrition played a role in my performance, in my recovery, and there was a time where I was just scared to eat certain foods. I was scared of beef, pork, too much sugar, and it really took me to a place where I was very concerned over the quality of the food, over the cleanliness of the food, whether or not it was healthy enough, and that ultimately led me to pursue becoming a registered dietitian. I wanted to help others with their nutrition, but I also wanted to help myself. And so when I talk about the allure of diet culture and wellness culture, I know, I totally get it. Diet culture has a way of presenting itself as a better place, a better thing to do for yourself. There's promises of transformation, and for some programs, like a higher purpose. Maybe that purpose is becoming a coach and then selling that program to other people. This echoes a lot of the characteristics that we see that pulls people into cult-like groups. And these promises, the things that feel so enticing, they really come at you full force when we're already in a society that values like aesthetics, constantly told that our value is linked to our bodies, how we look, and the success in meeting those goals related to how you can change your body. And within the space of dieting culture, communities emerge. And these communities are typically united in chasing those ideals. And so within these communities, we can see a kind of unity that creates this us-them mentality. The nature of it kind of distance its members from different viewpoints, and at that same time might discourage independent thought. This is one of the reasons why I'm not a fan of like diets. One of the questions that I get asked quite a bit whenever someone finds out that I'm a dietitian is, what is the best diet? What is like, why do I hear that someone says that this diet is best while someone else says that this diet is best? Who do we listen to? What's going on? And my response to that is always looking at what is the similarities. Can you see the similarities in those diets that look very different? Typically, they're going to have foundational things that we can see that are similar across the board. And the differences are really more of either medical nutrition therapy needs or preferences or potentially accessibility, but they have a lot of consistent foundations. And this is one of the other reasons why I have the merch and stuff. This is like food is neutral. I have stickers that say food is neutral, but it's true. We can see that. And food neutrality does not mean that food is like equivalent in the amount of nourishment that it provides. Food neutrality just means that we're able to approach food, see the maybe benefits in certain circumstances, some of the cons in certain circumstances, and make choices based off of them versus following this kind of good, bad food list. My goal is to encourage independent thought, not discourage it, and not encouraging people to follow this random list. One of the reasons why I think that diet culture is so strong is that it does create this kind of community mentality where people do find common interest and encouragement. There's a kind of collective aspiration. The adherence to the kind of diet doctrine is almost seen as the way, the only way. In this case, the way to acceptance, the way to health, the way to happiness. And another term that I use, actually got this from Precision Nutrition. They have a great article about it, but being like a diet agnostic kind of thing, like you are not tied down to one specific thing. I have some people that I work with who thrive off of higher carbohydrate, like foundationally, their body just energy wise, performance wise. There are other ones who do feel a little bit better on less amounts and on higher protein. It's not to say that the one who is getting a higher amount of carbohydrates is not getting sufficient protein. It's just like small little differences. And of course, it also depends on the time of the month or the time of the season of the sport or a variety of different things, or just the day and how they're feeling, their activity levels, their travel, so many different things. And so when we get tied down to any kind of like doctrine when it comes to diets, it starts to get a little culty, in my opinion. I do want to make a quick caveat. If you have a medical nutrition therapy need to abstain from something specific, or whatever that looks like, that is different. That is not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the, voluntarily doing something like that rather than medically needing to do something like that. Now, one of the things that is kind of foundation to having a cult is having a cult leader, someone who people can rally behind or rally around. They typically, like in the diet realm at least, will profess that they have found like the way, the truth about health and wellness, and what like others aren't telling you about it. These individuals range from like celebrity health gurus to wellness influencers. They wield power of shaping how people who are following them are going to approach food, and typically in ways that are pretty like strict and ultimately not evidence-based. One of the biggest red flags that I can say is like, listen to the narrative. Is it personal success stories? Because that is their experience. And while it's great anecdotal information, while I am like inclined to believe somebody's experience, if they do something health related and they're like, if they took a specific supplement or whatever, and this is their experience, I'm going to believe them. At that same time, their experience, we cannot extrapolate that and put that over a group of people, because that's not how science works. So if the program is more focused on those personal stories rather than evidence, it's a huge red flag for me. Like, we know that stuff sells. So it's not to say that anybody who does that is automatically a diet cult or anything. It's just a red flag. It's just something to be aware of. But going back to the topic of the similarities between diet culture and cults is the charismatic leader and this vision that is provided by this charismatic leader. Now, what we see, and it's not to say that if you have a charismatic like leader, person who you're looking up to or something, that it's a cult. That is not what I'm saying. I'm just talking about like various aspects and how the similarities are similarities. Going a step further, that creates that us-them mentality. Cults are known for their stark division, their differences between insiders and outsiders. And we see this mirrored in diet culture so much with eating the right way. There is binary thinking when it comes to approaching food in diets. This binary thinking of this food being good, this food being bad, and maybe if they're able to have like one cheat day or cheat meal, they're still seeing those foods as cheating, implying that them consuming that food at other times would also be cheating, which is inherently like a bad thing to do. Nobody is proud of being a cheater, right? And so I hope not. But the amount of diets that incorporate a kind of cheat meal or a cheat day is like proof of this kind of binary thinking within diets that we also see within cults. It's just interesting. Now, there's also the psychological impacts that diets can have on people. Diet culture's messaging often ties one's worth to how much they were able to adhere to the diet program, like compliance to those standards. And that can impact their self-identity, their self-worth. And it's really unfair because so much of how our bodies can respond to restriction, depending on the type of restriction from the diet, can be a physiological there can be so many physiological reasons why one might respond in a specific way outside of intention. And so putting someone's worth on their adherence is a really crappy thing to do. People can begin to see their identity, define their identity based on how well, or define more their worth based on how well they're able to follow the restrictive plan. People can start to define themselves to how they adhere. They can see themselves through the lens of adherence to their program. And that might lead to feelings of guilt on one side or feelings of superiority on the other side. Feeling superior over others who couldn't follow the program. Feeling superior over someone for their food choices. Further down the line, this identity, fusion to that diet, that can make the idea of stepping away, the idea of leaving, kind of stressful. It can feel similar to a loss of self. Working with people who have left diet culture, who are in the process of recognizing that it's just not working for them anymore, is hard. It is a struggle for many people. The idea, this loss of so many different things, the loss of maybe community from the program that you were with, a loss of time that was spent on putting so much time and energy into a diet, the loss of maybe how much they trust themselves around food even. So the psychological impact that diets can leave on people, we see a lot of similarities, in my opinion, that we see from when people are moving away from various kind of cults. To different degrees, of course, and also depends on a whole variety of factors. But again, we're talking about some similarities because it is so challenging for a lot of people to step away from diet culture. We haven't gotten yet to talking about the nutrition MLMs specifically. The isolation and the echo chambers of a diet culture can also be similar to what we see in cults. The promotion of one path towards health. Diet culture can isolate people to other kind of approaches, other perspectives, and kind of trapping in this cycle, this echo chamber that reinforces that cult-like ideology. Food is so much more than just fuel. It is connection, culture, enjoyment, experience, love. It is so much more than just fuel. And so when a dietary program or plan is very restrictive, it can be isolating. Unfortunately, this is something that we see in some medical nutrition therapy cases, and one of the reasons why working with a dietitian to liberalize the variety as much as possible is helpful and really important for long-term sustainability. And so when somebody does that intentionally, they're put in this kind of echo chamber of, these are the foods, this is the plan, this is how we do things. And that inherently isolates them from social that connection around food outside of that program. Now, when we're talking about diet culture specifically, some of the strategies that I would recommend for reducing the potential to falling into something like that is to recognize that there are so many ways of approaching nutrition, and there is not one specific way that's going to be not just, I think a lot of people understand that there's not one specific way that's going to work for everybody. But there's also not one specific way that's going to only work for one. How am I saying that? There's not one specific way that's going to work for someone only. There can be multiple different ways that you can approach nutrition, approach food, have various kinds of intake that can impact your health, your physical health, in a positive way. And that can change based also on the season that you're in life, your environment, the time that you can put into food preparation even. There are various different ways that can be helpful and supportive of your physical health. So whenever you do hear some kind of like diet guru talk like about like claims, recognizing the motives of that, the potential motives of that, and recognizing that some of those claims might be a little bit excessive, or if not excessive for them, cannot be extrapolated out to a larger group of people. In addition to that, cultivating self-compassion and flexibility in your eating and health practices, that can also be really helpful for not falling into a kind of diet like cult-like community. So like acknowledging that health is multifaceted, that it involves shades of gray when it comes to the implementation, that you're able to do maybe more of one week and less of another week. That is okay, because it is not an all or nothing kind of thing. There is no perfection adherence to a specific plan that is necessary for health, in general health. Again, not talking about like if you're allergic to something, medical nutrition therapy wise. But even with that, in some cases, medical nutrition therapy wise, there is room for flexibility. Acknowledging that health is multifaceted and personal, that can help individuals to kind of step away from rigid, prescriptive kind of mindsets that diet culture likes to perpetuate or it likes to promote. Recognizing all of those different dynamics that we talked about and utilizing the critical thinking, self-compassion, and flexibility and recognition of the multifaceted, actual like evidence-based approaches into health, we can begin to unravel the grip that diet culture has on a lot of us. Now, adding nutrition MLMs to diet culture adds a whole nother layer on top. You probably know this already if you're watching my channel, but MLMs often sell, multiple marketing companies, they sell often overpriced, unnecessary, ineffective health supplements, health and wellness products, and that are usually a lot of times tied to a kind of diet program or plan that they have created, and they use that to sell, to promote their products. Diet culture and MLMs, like, they are best friends when it comes to cult-like communities. They're both great matches. They are best friends for preying on vulnerabilities. In the MLM structure, in my opinion, it intensifies the cult-like aspects of diet culture. It offers not only a community of like-minded people, but it also creates this identity around specific products and specific programs. We talked about the allure of diet culture itself, but add on top of that the dreams of financial freedom. They sell a dream that is not only health and wellness related, like physical health, but also like financial. And they do this by promoting stories, by selling stories of individuals' own personal transformations without providing more information as far as how that person had to rely on so many people below them to get them up to that point. And that is not a sustainable business model. A lot of times the promises in diet, nutrition related MLMs are ones of health and wellness, financial stability, basically attaining a lifestyle that embodies happiness, success, and community. Now, you might say like, well, what's wrong with that? That sounds all good and all. This belonging is conditional. It's built off of the participation in the MLM, selling not just the products, but the dream to other people. The dream that is not evidence-based. It is not sustainable. It mirrors this kind of conditional acceptance that we see in diet culture. A lot of times, especially the newer MLMs, you're not required to purchase product and like sell from your stock, but you still have to purchase product, your own product, and maintain that on a consistent basis, like the subscription to get it delivered on a monthly basis. Now, when I was in a nutrition-related MLM, one of the arguments for that was that you have to be a product of the product. You have to take the product. We don't want salespeople. We want people who actually enjoy the product and that kind of thing. The thing is, though, for many of these kind of products, they tell you to take it on a daily basis, but that's not necessary. These kind of supplements that are pushed onto people on a daily basis for months and months and months, that is not necessary. I am not against supplements. There is a time, there is a place where I will implement the use of certain supplements on people who I work with. It can be from a variety of different cases, whether we're focused on sports nutrition or digestive health. There are different supplements that I will use. There is a lot of great research for some really cool supplements. There's a lot of cool things that we can do with certain supplements. There is benefit to many different kinds of supplements. You don't need to take them every single day for months on end though. Health MLMs, diet MLMs, they frequently market their products around you need to have this kind of thing. They market it around as essential to health and wellness, typically making exaggerated claims, unfounded claims on efficacy of the product, on the actual evidence of the product. Sometimes they will refer to evidence of specific ingredients in the product, but not evidence on the specific product itself and that blend itself. This can make people rely on those products more and more and make it harder again for them to step away because of that reliance over more balanced and evidence-based approaches to health and wellness. The overall emphasis on supplements or specific diet products, meal replacements, specific diet plans, those can pose health risks for a variety of reasons, whether it's because of other kind of products within there, like contamination, or if it's contraindicated for someone based on their condition or medication that they're taking. But it can also, if that replaces a otherwise balanced and varied intake, that can be an issue. Now, in my opinion, breaking free from nutrition-related MLMs, that requires a lot of awareness and support. Individuals need access to unbiased health information, unbiased information. I remember when I was in there and I had some concerns, some of the red flags that I was seeing in multi-level marketing, and I was encouraged to get that information from those biased sources and not seek out non-biased sources. Having that awareness and the understanding of tactics that nutrition MLMs pull people in, diet culture pulls people in, cults, other cults pulls people in, having that critical awareness and the understanding of those tactics, I think it is so important because we can then take steps to empower people to recognize those, to not only recognize those, but also that can empower people to make choices, informed choices about their health and their well-being. And my goal is never to take people and tell them what to do exactly. My goal is to just have information share information so that people can make informed choices by understanding the pull that diet culture has on people, that nutrition MLMs have on people, that cults have on people. Looking at similarities, we can support people who are caught up in the web, and we can advocate for a culture that instead prioritizes health and wellness from a kind of culty mentality, one that promotes critical thinking, one that values evidence-based approaches to health. Overall, what I see and what I think of it as a promotion of health and a promotion of well-being over profit-driven health narratives. Now, this is where I think that the anti-MLM movement has done a really great job of, and I am so happy to be part of that. I think everybody can be part of that if they want to. Many dietitians, I think of Abby Langer and Abby Sharp, have been at this for a very long time, talking about nutrition-related MLMs and just the damage that they can do. We also have students who aren't even dietitians yet, who are already making a splash on the scene and creating this content around how damaging these nutrition related MLMs can be as well. Now, this brings up another point, which is navigating vulnerabilities in care. So individuals who are stepping away from diet culture and or nutrition MLMs, the path is often filled with challenges and sensitive points. It is vital for health professionals to really navigate those and recognize those vulnerabilities, because when somebody is in a diet kind of cult-like community and or they are also in a nutrition MLM, when they first leave, there is a lot of potential for them to kind of latch onto something else. And instead of deconstructing from why they maybe got into those in the first place, rather than deconstructing from that, kind of attaching to something else. the process of leaving both of those, it requires a deep look, an understanding, peeling back the layers. This is a time where maybe one of those resources like Megan Williams' book, which I'll also have linked down below, can be really helpful for that person who is unpacking their journey through that. In my opinion, the focus as a provider would be to encourage this kind of not only reflection within my scope, because like I can't do the stuff that like Megan Williams does, for example, because that is not within my scope of practice. But within the nutrition side of things, nutrition scope of practice, the goal, in my opinion, should be to foster independence and really be sure to recognize those vulnerabilities, and maybe like even unintentionally using those to like create this own kind of like diet cults, really empowering people to have that approach of to nutrition with curiosity, compassion, and context that ultimately embodies a individual approach, and one that does not have this kind of black or white implementation of actions. I think the potential to exploit those, like there is that risk. And so whenever I am working with somebody who has come to me because of my videos, like I don't take that lightly. I reflect as much as like to making sure that I'm not creating my own non-diet cult. I really encourage critical thinking and self-advocacy if someone feels like they are maybe not getting the support to have that independence. Supporting people in the transition from leaving diet culture, leaving their nutrition MLM, it not only means helping people disentangle themselves from harmful practices, but it's also guiding them to recognize and resist other forms of exploitation. Like just because somebody is not promoting an MLM does not mean that they should like not have that self-reflection. And I think it is so important, especially as a health professional in this space, to recognize those vulnerabilities, not only on myself, but to also show those people how they could potentially be at risk for further exploitation, and to recognize that, and just to be like, have that kind of reflection to make sure that they're not like passing their dedication or anything onto like a different kind of community. In conclusion, kind of wrapping this up, breaking free from diet culture, breaking free from nutrition MLMs, it's a lot. As we navigate through the complexity of that as a community, the anti-MLM movement itself can do a lot to foster, to help support that kind of transition, and at that same time recognize those vulnerabilities and not exploit those. So that wraps it up for today's video. If you like this video, please give it a like. Make sure you're subscribed. I would greatly appreciate that. As always, I am open to criticism, to constructive criticism, hopefully. I want to continue to foster an environment and a community within my practice of having people feel safe to reach out to me if, you know, with anything, without having to fear like me attacking or something like that. So if you do have any questions or anything like that, feel free to reach out to me or leave it down below. Thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate your time. And remember, you can strive for health without subscribing to diet culture. I'll see you later. Bye.